Hey everyone, Coach Patrick here, Endurance Nation. Excited to talk you through the Perfect Masters season, part one. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the winter and what we do in the winter training. Full disclosure, this is taking place in a New York City hotel room, not my normal webinar background, but called to work to conduct some training for some new hires this week. And so I'm doing double duty as a good Masters athlete does, making space for more. I'll be talking a little bit about that. I'm excited to have you all here and to talk to you a little bit about the Master season. For those of you who are live, the comments should be open. I'll make sure that the chat is open in my sidebar here. And so if you all want to chat, you can go right ahead and do that. I'm happy to see the comments and come back to you and talk. For those of you on the team, I'll be recording this and posting it inside the community and then can do follow-up Q&A with all of you in terms of what it is you're looking for. A Masters season is really a unique undertaking. Now, for context, I've been building seasons since 2007. I've been building my own since 2001. I've done everything from Ironman to marathon to ultra distance cycling, mountain bike to pretty much any combination thereof, which means only that I've seen a lot of great ways to screw up a perfectly good season. I've done it myself. I've seen people do it. I've told people how to do a season and they screwed it up. I screwed up seasons and gave it to people. The number of data points that I have is pretty insane. So the information I'm giving you today has really been condensed down to what I believe sort of the key fundamentals you need to think about planning your year. Now, most people plan their season, they get really carried away in terms of charts and they stack everything and put it all together. And that is the last thing you want to do, okay? It's tempting to do. It's fun. It's exciting. You can stack weeks. You see, lines move and training stress load, and you can map things out perfectly to your race in a straight line. But let's face it, folks, as a Masters athlete, we know there are no straight lines in life. And they look great on paper, but that's not what reality looks like. And so the whole point of our Masters approach to education and outreach, which started just last year, is to make sure that you understand that you can leverage the nuances that you've learned about your body, about your schedule, about your ability to execute a season, about how you race, and turn those into strategic advantages. And take it, actually build with them instead of around them or trying to undermine them or eliminate them or ignore them, and actually make it a point of leverage for you. So again, this is a fairly simple webinar here in terms of structure. I'm going to add you some additional color here. And if you have any questions or comments, you can always reply back to us. If you go to our website at endurancenation.us, I think there's a chat button there where you can chat with me as well. So any way you want to contact me, please do so. I think even on our website, you can actually find a way to contact me as well. So you can go to endurancenation.us for that too. All right. So let's get on with the show. And I'm not sure what the best way to go about it is here. I'll try this. Let's see if this works. All right. And the context again, Perfect Master season, talking about the winter build and how to make sure you don't burn out before the spring. That is the number one fault point that we see, although I'll talk to you about a few more as well. All right. So just for context and why this is so important for you, those of you who are watching, and if anyone else you want to share this with, because it's going live on Facebook and YouTube, please go ahead. Seasons don't fall apart on race day. People will look at a year and say, oh man, I really wish I'd run this marathon faster, or I'd done the bike portion of my Ironman faster. And they'll look at the bike and they'll say, maybe I needed different wheels or a different aero helmet, or maybe I was in the wrong aero position. I'd done something wrong. It's very tempting in the moment when we evaluate ourselves at the point of a race to assume what we can see, what is visible, what is in our recent history is the greatest determinant of our success. And I have to tell you that is not true at all. It's tempting to do. It's easy to do. You want to blame it on that gel you ate. You want to blame it on the competition. You want to blame it on choosing the wrong gearing was on your bike that you got from your bike shop or something like that. I've seen it all. I've heard it all. Really, when seasons don't meet expectations on race day, it's because of what you're doing right now. December, January, February, March. This is where great seasons happen. Not just because you're moving your widget, your race car, when everyone else is not moving there, so you're getting a bit of a head start, but also because what you do now is what sets the stage for the next stage, right, of your training, right? So the work we do now in December, January, February, March sets the stage for spring, and spring sets the stage for the summer and race season and the fall and beyond. So for folks who are just looking to race for, like, say, 2 or 3 months a year, like they just say, like I said, I'll start training in April. And I'll do, April, May, and then June, I'll do like an Olympic and I'm done. That's great. That's not what this webinar is for. This is for people who are trying to say, how do I go through the process of creating an excellent season? And I'm telling you right now, what you do now really matters. Okay. And it doesn't have to be anything super sexy, but you really have to invest in the right activities now. And the mistakes are really subtle, right? So it's overdoing it in the winter, and I'll get into more details, or not starting at all, skipping, saying, I'll be fine. They never get in the rhythm in December. So the holidays hit, they're way late. Now weather's cold, it's so frigid here in New York City that they're like, I'm going to wait till it gets nicer in February. And all this time is passing by. And time is really a lever, and you get to choose. Are you using it to leverage time to your advantage to create fitness? Or are you just letting that leverage just sit there and let time work on your body? We want to use time to work on our body, not have time work on us. When time works on us, the outcome's not so good, right, long term. And above all else, you need to know there's specific actions I'll cover today that are for masters athletes in general. You may have some of your own maxims or things you want to focus on, but I'll get to some of these items here. So you just sort of understand how we get it. So we'll start broad and then we'll zero in. So first things first, this is not a chart. Like people are looking for, I know, like base, build, peak, recover, peak 2, recover, peak 3, peak 4, and the typical charts that we would see in the winter. That's not where we're going today. Instead, I want to talk to you about the components of what makes a great season. Number one, you have a singular focus. And if you do it right, you've got a focus that actually kind of scares the crap out of you a little bit. So it's your first Ironman and you're like, I'm going to put that Ironman out there. Be like, I don't know if I'm going to make it. Or you say, I'm going to go back to that same Ironman and go 25 minutes or 30 minutes faster. Again, kind of puts a little bit of fear inside of you. A great season goal is clear. It has a date and it is ambitious, right? So it is a mountain bike race on August 17th. And I want to go, sub 9. So I can get the big buckle or some version of that, or sub 10 or whatever it was. Those are three things that combined conspire to keep you snapped in and locked in. You are now paying attention, right? So it's one thing to be, waiting in the line for a roller coaster. It's another thing to be in the car, snapping the lap belt down and being like, I am now paying attention. And you need a singular focus that makes you pay attention. If you don't wake up in the morning and debate about your workout and your singular focus doesn't come into mind, then your singular focus is not enough. If you're waiting for an alarm or a call from a friend or some motivational music to come on, then your singular focus, my friends, does not meet the test. So first, determine that singular focus. Number two, a great season has time. Again, one of the worst parts about waiting until, say, March to start training is that your season is probably over by August. So you go March, April, May, June, July, August. You get 6 months. You get half a year to get ready for your race. And that's all you want to do, and you enjoy the other half of your doing other stuff. That sounds fine by me. But if you have goals, if you have aspirations, and if you have that singular focus, you're going to need more time. Starting earlier gives you more time in your season. Plain and simple. It's just math. Number three, a great season has buffer zones. By buffer zones, I mean kind of a little extra space on the side of the road, like a shoulder on the side of a highway, like the space you kind of give someone next to an airplane when you're kind of sharing an armrest. You need some room because you're going to need to move, shuffle, stretch out. You're going to have ups and downs. You're going to have setbacks. And a great season has that room. The worst thing that we see athletes do when they're building their own season is that they stack everything back to back, right? I go from a base period into a build period, or right from a build period into a race prep block. And there's no rest. And when you stack it like this, there's no room for parts of the season to expand, or if parts of the season break, you have no time or flexibility to actually build it back again. And so those buffer zones are really critical. So when you think about a season, factoring in extra rest weeks are really important. I'm going to put a rest week. If you're doing a race in July and I'm starting to train you now in January, I'm going to have at least 3 or 4 rest weeks between now and your race, like a full week of rest. It's not that you're going to lay around and like eat nacho chips all day long. A rest week means that you have flexibility now. I've built in a buffer zone. If something goes wrong or you're called to New York City for work, we can push a week into the future and take away some of that rest week because we have flexibility built into the system. So you have to give yourself that room so you can adapt. Yes, you still need rest. I'm not saying we can eliminate rest weeks together. Then you'd be right back where we started here with this conversation about flexibility and rest. But it really makes a difference that you have those little spaces. So save those spaces, okay? Number 4, there's accountability. Sometimes that's a coach. Sometimes that's a team. Sometimes it's a peer or a training partner. Whatever it is, you need some level of accountability. This is the person, organization, group. I don't know if you use an AI robot that you tell about your singular focus goal and you get locked in on it. If it's your friend, they should say that's beefy. Like you're going to do what? Like that's legit. Like not always like crazy epic with our goals, right? You got to take care of your body. Some crazy goals cost money, or they're like poorly scheduled in a calendar that maps to your life. But either way, you need someone to kind of hold you accountable and be like, how's that thing going? Hey, I thought you said you were going to be like running 5 days a week. We only run 3 days a week together. Are you secret running? Like a good training partner, a good colleague, a good counterpart, a good coach will hold you accountable. Doesn't have to be crazy, doesn't have to be hard, but it does have to be applied consistently. And then last but not least, a good season has to be fun. You have to want to do something fun in here. Not every single day, like wear your party hat and dance around. But what it means is whenever your intermittent time is right for you, is it once a month? Is it once every 3 weeks? Is it once every 6 weeks? Finding something just kind of fun and unique to do, either with your fitness or as a stretch of your training, is really important. That could be just doing an indoor long distance ride and challenging yourself. It could mean taking up a winter sport on Saturdays and trying to do like a 10K of skate skiing. Dear God, please save me. It could be training and doing your fitness, but going to visit someone in a warmer climate and I don't know, walking a marathon just for the heck of it. Be like, can we walk 26 miles? How long will that take? And because you've got fitness, you can challenge yourself and you can do something cool and you can make it social with friends. You can make it fun, like a low stakes event. But whatever it is, it has to be fun. And so fun usually involves like people and some sort of objective. And the whole point here is to make sure that when you combine these components, when you get the singular focus locked in with enough time, you got a buffer zone for some wiggle room. You can add accountability with a peer, and then you have fun along the way. Your season is winning. If you can check these boxes, your season has won. So it's not about integrating like a small race with a medium race with a big race, or putting 4 weeks before a great, like that's logistics. I don't need you to talk logistics. I need you to solve these things. Let someone else take care of the logistics. Let a plan, let a coach take care of the logistics. But if you don't start with these, no matter what logistics you make, you're not really going to be good at adhering to them. It's not a fun plan. Okay. Moving forward. So what a season roadmap looks like. I decided not to get too specific. I decided to have a little fun with this. To talk a little bit about it. So you can see the transition: winter, spring, summer, fall. Some of you race in the fall, some of you may race in the spring as well. But I drew this line on here simply to kind of show you that this is sort of like compliance with the schedule. So again, you can have that straight line that goes like up and to the right, like all those stock market charts they show you, like your investment goes up and to the right always. Woo! But in reality, we know it's super, super variable. So in this case, this athlete, kind of got started in the winter. The weather turned nice, got really motivated in the spring, got into it, but then kind of got a little setback because they hadn't any foundation. So they weren't prepared to do the extra work in the spring. So they had a dip, they had to recover. They got in a race season and they built up to go to a race. They almost got to the level they were in the spring. Like, what a bummer, right? Because if they'd been there at the same level, if they hadn't had that dip or as bad of a dip in the spring, if they hadn't overreached, summer might have gone up a little bit higher, like in terms of capacity. And then the fall, you have like recovery. I would also put fun and stuff inside here as well. I don't know about you. I don't have a lot of beach umbrellas in my fall. I'm not sure why I chose that. But in the fall, you can do other stuff with your fitness if you do the race season right. And you may have more races there, or maybe you race in the fall. The importance of knowing this is that sometimes if you're racing earlier in the season, we make different decisions about the winter than if you race later in the season in summer. We can have a different set of decisions we can make in the winter. I'll talk a little bit about it in a second. But I just wanted to show that there are some seasonal components to your season as well. So we're not just talking about the different components that we want to have. We're also going to sort of map those out across the time frame as well. Today, we're really focused on the winter. But I want you to just sort of reflect on this, because if you go back, one of my favorite things to do is when I work with a new athlete, I'll say, show me your Strava. I'll get in there with the sauce extension and I'll go take a look back and see where you're at. And when you ask someone ahead of time, hey, how much have you trained the last 6 weeks? They'll give you a number, but you go back and verify it on Strava. Very few athletes are actually talking about the actual number that they've done. They always give themselves like a +1 or a +2, right? When you ask someone about last year, like what was their most consistent time or blocks, our memory is insanely flawed relative to what we're capacitated. We overestimate vastly how strong how much work we did in the past. And we underestimate the importance of doing good work now relative to the time for our goals. So we say, it's not, I don't have to start today. I can start tomorrow for that goal. And then afterwards, when you talk reflectively about your season, you say, I put in this great 10-week block. Yeah, that 10-week block had like 3 breaks in the middle of it. It wasn't a great 10-week block at all. You are calling it 10 because like retroactively you think it was 10, but it wasn't. So don't deceive yourself. Go back and check out some of your data. Hopefully you have it and it's saved up there. Okay. Ooh, let me move. I find myself here. Hold on. There we go. So what winter's for? We talked about what a great season components are. So what do we actually want to do in winter? So early, like I said, basically what we do now sets you up for the rest of your season. So ultimately your race date or your most important race or your key focus to drive sort of like all of your decisions about the winter, but it's really about establishing that baseline. And there's many different ways you can do it: consistency, intensity, durability, volume. You can do different types of training and so on. But the whole point is that what we do now in the winter is what's going to set us up for later in the season. So now is not the time for us to be racing. We don't need to go super hard. We don't have to go super big. We're starting to put things together. So always giving yourself extra. So like a good winter decision would be, hey, we're going to go run with friends. I think we're going to run, about an hour. We'll get outside and do the thing. Your spring self would say, let's go run an hour. Your winter self should say, how about we do about 40 minutes? Does that sound all right? And your summer self may say, like, why stop at 1? Let's go to 2 hours. By the time you get to summer, you have the fitness and the work under your belt that you can overachieve relative to a number. In the spring, when you have a couple of weeks, ideally maybe 2 or 3 months of training under your system, you can hold that 1 hour number. An hour sounds fine. If it's the winter, just hedge. Just go 2/3 of that number and knock it back. So if you're not sure if you can achieve that goal, or if you have a big ambitious goal, take it a little bit back in the winter. You can always get your fitness back if you've taken a deliberate small step down. If you don't take small steps down in the winter, then life is going to come and take you down. Illness, injury, fatigue, overuse injury, I would call it sort of a tragic injury or overuse injury, or just complete lack of motivation from all of the consistent training. So we actually underestimate the capacity of our work now, but we index more on the consistency. So instead of having a bunch of big workouts or one big workout, I want lots of small workouts that we have no problem executing across a week. Okay. And you start small, but you'll be surprised. After a few weeks, you can build up. If you're racing in April, for example, early spring, then we have a serious winter. Winter is more of a job than it is fun and exploration. If your race is in July, August, September, or October or later, then winter takes a different approach. The timing really does matter. So it's easy for you to fall into a trap of saying, like, I want to train like that person over there. I'm going to train according to this book or this text. That's fine. But really, because we have that singular focus that we picked earlier, as we talked about in the previous slide, then that drives what we do now. And that's what keeps you locked in and on track. Okay, so super important that you understand. Serious winter means like more intervals, more race specific in terms of focus and in terms of modality. Later in the season, we can have fun. That means we can do some quality during the week, but we can do winter sports or other stuff on the weekend. We have a lot more flexibility to it. So the focus you have really determines where you want to be. And ultimately, here's what you're going to do: is you're going to build the fitness and fatigue that you will challenge all year. What does that mean? You'll challenge your fitness and fatigue. It means what we build now becomes not just a stepping stone, but something we're going to continue poking and stimulating and challenging and seeing it evolve and grow over time. Now, essentially what that means is that we're creating the ball of clay that we will be using the rest of the season to shape our year. If you don't have a nice size ball of clay by the time you exit the winter, you don't have a lot that you can mold and shape into your season, right? If you've done nothing over the winter, you have no clay. And you got to start building it from scratch. If you've been really focused all winter and been consistent and done the right work, then you've got a healthy amount of clay that we can use to then turn into what we want to build for the rest of the year. So if you're not doing the work now, you won't have the materials with which to make great decisions. You'll be significantly disadvantaged, and you'll be really making training decisions around, can my body handle that now, as opposed to what's the right amount of work I want to do to achieve my race goal. Okay, so super important. So ultimately, if you don't have a good winter, you're not going to reach your race goal. So, all right, let's talk a little bit about the most common winter mistakes. Just important to call these out. They range from like not recovering, like going right from last season into this season. Really a big no-no for those of you who do late season races. Folks who wear themselves down, like, and not enough rest or not enough sleep, then you get sick. And getting sick in the winter is just like getting injured, only it's worse because your body actually works. You're just sick. So like mission control is down and your arms and legs are fine, but you can't do anything, right? That's just because you didn't take care of your body. The third one here is just not enough variety. And this is something that's really important to masters athletes, is working in some of that level of variety. So if you're just doing the same thing over and over again, the same week, repeat, you get some value out of it in the short term in terms of adaptation. But over time, those overuse patterns really start to harm you. particularly indoors where our range of motion is typically limited. Like for example, on the treadmill, we don't really run like we normally run when we're running on the treadmill. Overusing the treadmill in the winter can lead to some overuse injuries and some stagnation in terms of your muscular development, your high quality run form, etc. So we want to be careful there. Next one is just being too serious, right? Or on the inverse, having too much fun. So we want that golden mean. You're being too serious and you're locked in, you're going to just burn through your motivation like nobody's business. And if you're having too much fun, then you're just probably not getting the actual work done. If you can find a sweet spot between like a ton of fun and getting work done, tell me where that zone is. I will move to that zip code. But what I'm really saying here is that people who are having too much fun, they just kind of bounce around and do whatever they fancy. And yeah, we all go through those phases. That's fine. But if you don't do enough of the consistent work, even if it's different modalities, you won't see the adaptations that you want. So we need that golden mean there in terms of like serious and fun. I talked about starting at last season's perceived peak here. What that means is different than never recovering. This is even worse. So last year you finished and you were super fit. You had a great fall. You did a half marathon. You did it in like 9:15s. You're so proud of yourself, and you should be. That's amazing. But then you go out for your runs like 2 months later after taking time off, and you go right back out at 9:15s. You have no business running 9:15s right out of the gate. You've had 2 months of not really running. That was peak you. You can't start this season at peak you. This is that 2/3 sort of ratio I gave you before with the 1 hour workout example. In this case, instead of going at 9:15s, just go run some 10s or some 10:15s. You can still have a great run and not be running at race pace. Like racing and race mentality can be very damaging when applied outside of race season. And then last but not least, doing too much too soon. Just getting carried away. One of the challenging parts of winter training is the weather and the shorter daylight hours, but there's also not a lot of else going on. So it's easy to just fill your time with just more training instead of having other stuff to do. That's a big no-no. We want to still have a smart and intentional progression of load and time for recovery. If you just get really carried away and start doing bigger things or chasing, sort of like random goals, you'll see some short-term gains, but you might be putting the rest of your season at jeopardy if you're not being smart about how you handle your time. All right. What does this mean from a master's perspective? This is really important. What are the ones that make the biggest difference for masters? So here are those same mistakes again. Here are the 3 that I think are the worst offenders for where we are. Number 1, wearing yourself down. This is so easy, especially as we age. We are so much more susceptible to getting sick. We don't sleep as well when we age. We get dehydrated more easily. We're more prone to like big weather swings, especially, let's say you go out and run and get hot and sweaty, but then the wind picks up and get cold. Your body doesn't handle sudden temperature changes very well. Easy to pick up some kind of respiratory infection, right? You don't have enough variety. Again, this is like, you talk about sitting in an office chair and saying, sitting in a chair all day is bad for me. Well, so too is doing the same exercise. And as a master's athlete, as a range of motion decreases over time, being in fixed positions or a similar fixed position for a long time is really hard. Challenging yourself is also hard because you're breaking a routine. I really love riding my bike. I really love running. It's fine. I don't need to pick up a new sport. I don't need to do paddle ball. I don't need to go to the gym and do strength, or I don't need to take a spin class, or I don't need to get in the pool. But the variety is actually fantastic. It actually broadens the range of movement of your body. It challenges different muscle groups. It keeps you aerobic and fit. And we can always get more specific later. We always want to be getting more and more specific as our season goes on. And the lack of specificity now, but an opportunity to build foundation, is really important. So we want you to have fun, like developmentally. This is the perfect time for you to go do other stuff and also challenge yourself. And then also just this last one here, doing too much too soon. This is probably more for the men out there than the women. I don't have a lot of women that overachieve. They're too smart. They know their limits and work within them. But for the men, we often do this way too much, where we've had like 2 weeks of running and we're going to sign up for a half marathon in 2 weeks because our friends are doing it, right? Or you've got a progression plan on the paper that says you're going to go like 8 weeks, 10 weeks and 8 hours, 10 hours and 12 hours over this, like say February build, and then go back to 8 hours. But you could do 8 and you feel great, and you do 10 and a half and you feel great. So you say, why stop at 12? I'll go to 14. So you've already over exceeded there. And then you go right back to it and you say, I just did 14. Why do I need to go all the way back to 8? That's almost half. That's like insane. I'll just go back to like 11 because that seems less. And your 11 is actually higher than the first 2 weeks of the 3-week build. Like insane. It sounds crazy when you lay it out, but that's what people do that all the time. That's what too much too soon means. Some people want to like link it into a specific workout or a specific thing, but that's the issue, is overachieving a little bit and then not giving yourself enough time to recover. Like that recovery was built in there on purpose, and people are not giving themselves the time to adapt. So these are the 3 of the 6 that I believe hurt masters athletes the most. Okay. So how do we do this, right? Well, we start with our goal. So what's the big race? What's the big thing? This one answer, like when someone says, hey, what are you doing? You have to know this answer right away. And, if you're doing it right, your friends are kind of like, ooh, like, tell me more about this thing you're doing, right? That means it's challenging, it's unique, and your friends know it's a stretch for you, etc. Really, really important. So once you know what your goal is, then you have to be able to ask, what do I need to be able to do to hit that goal? So if I want to do a marathon in 4 hours, and my marathon is in, I don't know, June, and I'm starting training in November. So I've got from November to June. So I've got like 8 months. So I'm like, okay, I got 8 months to get to this race. So when I get out of winter, say in February, 4 months from now, what do I need to be able to do? If I'm training for a marathon, I've got to be able to run a half marathon pretty consistently, just at an aerobic pace. But I also want to be building my run durability. So I actually want to be running a little more frequently and taking care of my body so that I can continue to run frequently to set the foundation for the additional running that I want to do at higher intensities or for a longer distance. So I have to focus on maybe a little more run specific in this example for my winter, right? I'll put an example down here where it says like, hey, if you're going to do a spring 70.3, then you probably want to be able to exit your winter being able to do a half marathon on your own out of the gate. Like super simple, so that when I say get ready for race ready at half marathon, you're like, oh, okay, it's got to tweak a couple knobs here, make some small changes, but I already know I can do it because I have it now, right? That's super important, okay? So understanding the goal and what you want that to be, not just the race itself, but the performance side. So then we can figure out where do we need to be from a milestone space at the end of the winter, so you can target that. You're not targeting a race. This process takes away the problem where people will just get too ambitious too early, just too carried away, all right? So how do we do it? There's 2 things here. This is what I'm talking about here in terms of structuring. Over here is how you check, okay? So on the structure side, we think a little bit about how do we build our weeks? How do we build our training? Number 1, we think about, I shouldn't even put number 1 up here, but I would say number 1 would be rest. Like, where are your rest days going to be? Where are your rest weeks going to be? Like, factor in, you're going to rest every Wednesday, you're going to rest every Sunday. Right now I'm on a program that's 5 days, Monday, Wednesday, Friday of work, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday of work, and then Saturday, Sunday of rest. So I know what my rest days are, super detailed, right? Number 2 here would be infrastructure. So now we figured out the rest for your week. What's the infrastructure work you need to be doing? This is strength, this is mobility, this is functional strength, right? It's the stuff that helps us maintain our form over time, keeps us resilient and strong as masters athletes. So what's the infrastructure piece you're going to put in? So we determine infrastructure, we block that in. So if Sundays are off, my infrastructure days may be Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'm going to do a 20-minute weight circuit. So I've got those down on my calendar. Then I go back and look at my race and say, what's the critical success factor? If it is indeed a cycling race, then riding my bike is my critical success factor. So I may want to get a certain level of fitness on the bike, determined by my coach or my plan or whatever that may be. But I understand what that goal is on race day, and I reverse engineer it so I know I'm on my way. It's much easier to think about from a weight example. If you're 200 pounds right now and you race in 6 months and you want to be 180 pounds by the time you get there, assuming that's healthy, you need to lose 20 pounds between now and then. So you have a target at the end of winter that's sort of like a goal to get to, so you can continue that trajectory into the rest of your year. If you don't start chipping away at the goal now, you just have less and less time to achieve the goal, which becomes a problem. You don't want to be crash dieting or doing anything else, right? So once we've figured out what the modal or what the focus is going to be of the winter, then we structure our season based on the timing. Again, this is the early season for the spring, and we're serious, or like late race season, which gives us more flexibility. So we're kind of toggling the is it a fun winter? Like the season is much later, my race is much later, or is it a work winter where my race is much sooner in the spring? So that's important to determine the characteristics or nature of your winter training. Then we ensure in variety. So if we know we want to be getting 8 hours or 10 hours of aerobic work or whatever that may be, making sure you've got some variety in the different types of training you have there, or as much as possible. And then ultimately we use training stress as the measure, not just time. It's simple to count hours and say that's going to work, but if you do like 10 hours, but they're at like 0.5, like super easy, like super sleepy, not even working hard pace, that's only so much training stress. Yes, you spent 10 hours doing work, but you could spend half as much time or 3/4 of that much time and achieve the same workload on your body. In the winter, we don't always want to just be doing more and more and more. Part of our season will be adding the volume. So use the training stress to capture just how much work you're putting into your plan each week, so you understand what you're getting out of it later on. Super important. In order to check your success here, just answer these questions. Like, is there sufficient variety in here? Have I built fun into my plan? Is there cool stuff? Like, what would it look like every 6 weeks, every 4th week? What do you want to do? And then does the work align with my goal? And these things are really important. So we need variety to stay healthy. We need to have some fun to stay focused so we can have that dichotomy between work and fun. And then we have to make sure that the work that we're doing here, even if it's infinitesimal, is still getting us that place. So in this case, it might be a run durability plan inside Station with some run consistency or a run streak even eventually that's sustaining you up to be stronger later in the season to do your marathon. We're not doing marathon race pace right now. We're not doing race simulations. We're not doing 10Ks for time. We're building that infrastructure through consistency and a relentless application of these protocols, right? So here's the summary slide so you can see it. I'll let you scan it. This is a recipe for a great master season. We start with the goal. We understand what you want to be at in order to achieve the goal by the end of winter. We figure out our infrastructure work. We figure out our critical success factor. We add in variety, and we make sure it has fun. Super important, okay? Instructions on this side, very simple. I wanted to give you this so you had an understanding of how you want to go through the process and making sure you've checked all the right boxes to build your perfect season. If you can check these boxes and go to your coach, or check these boxes and go to your plan, make sure those components are in it, you're going to be so much more successful over time. It's very easy to get carried away and think that the work that you're doing now is going to be the work that sets you up for the rest of your year. But if you're not accounting for the differential that allows you to succeed, that bandwidth and the process that will lay out how your year is going to unfold, you're really going to be selling yourself super short. So here, let me come back on the screen here. All right, I hope you enjoyed the presentation today. I kept it super big and important, but I wanted to stimulate some thoughts for you as you look at your season now. Now that you've watched this, go take a look at your training plan. Does it have rest built in? Is there a variety of training in my week? If not, where can I add it? Do I have consistent functional training in the course of my week? I do a 20-minute routine with bands and body weight exercises. I do it at least twice a week, if not 3 times, right? I've got I built a fun habit. I call it fun. It's probably not fun, but I do a certain number of push-ups every time I leave the bathroom after I go pee. So if I go pee 4 times during the day, I'm doing 4 by 25 push-ups, right? So I'm doing 100 push-ups a day, just like that. Just some stupid game I'm playing, but it has me building requisite strength over the winter. It's a small habit that I have. This is just a small step of many small steps that are adding up over time cumulatively to have me be ready. So you don't have to be serious, like locked in and doing all the work and racing hard and doing stuff just to be good. If you can be consistent, if you can have that variety, if you can build in some rest, you make sure you don't have that downtime because you have variety in your plan and you are resting so you don't get sick and don't get injured. And you can have fun every once in a while. You're going to be light years ahead of the competition, right? You'll still be interested in your training when the season gets hard. Because here's the story, in a well-executed season, just think about it from a half marathon perspective. Miles 1 through 5 or 6, if you're trained for your half marathon, don't even feel like you're at halfway. You feel like you just got started. About mile 8 or 9 feels sort of like halfway. Mile 10 feels like you're doomed. Like the difference between, oh, I'm at halfway, like it's kind of feeling like work, and oh my God, I'm working right now, is just a mile. It's just a little toggle, and it sneaks up on you. How do we make sure that we don't fall into that trap? We do the good work earlier in the season so that you're ready and prepared to handle the workload required to be successful at that marathon, but you're also really good at pacing yourself and making decisions under duress. All of those things really combine after you design a really good season. So think about your year the same way. If you start in January and we go to December, people are like, oh, March, April, everything's great. I'll do everything I want. I don't need to rest. In fact, I think I'm going to give up sleeping because I also want to write a book and I'm going to train more. I'll break my day into 2 and I'll do train in the morning and then I'll train in my second morning, which is what other people would call evening, but I call it second morning, some dumbass thing like that. And they put in more training time, and then guess what happens? All of a sudden June comes and they are broken. They're more tired in June than they were at the end of last season after they did a big full year in races because they just made poor decisions and they didn't see the impact of those poor decisions soon enough. So please take this presentation as a gigantic grain of salt. Take a look at your training plan, use the recipe checklist, make sure you get it right. This is online now, so you can go find it and screenshot it, and make sure that you're actually doing the right work. If you need help or you have questions, go to endurancenation.us. That's where I live. The team is there as well. Happy to support you. It's what we do is we build seasons every single year. You can find me on social media as well, or you can find me on Strava as well. In Zwift, I'm always riding my bike and training in New York City right now. So you'll see some runs in New York City, some very cold runs in New York City. But yeah, I hope you take this into account. If you were looking for like key recipes or like special supplements to take, so sorry. All of those things to me are just little tiny pieces of a decoration on top of the foundation that we're building. So y'all are talking about what color frosting we're using, or like, are we going to put some like cherries on top of this thing, or fruit, or are we going to actually like write our names on it? I'm worried about make sure I got the right ingredients in the mixer, then I can turn that blender on so we can start putting things together. So at this stage, we're just doing the blending and building that foundation for later. Whatever that looks like for you is up to your protocol, your plan, the proximity of your race. But if you do this right, if you can make sure that you're consistent here now, you'll be amazed at what's possible for you later in the year. I believe in you. I know you can do it. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. It was great to see folks here tonight. Thanks for joining me. I look forward to seeing you inside the community or on social media. Take care. Thank you, Eugene. Linda, I love your idea of doing the band exercises right before my runs. Yeah. Hey, that's a great idea. I do a lot of my abs and core work in the summer. I mean, before I do my runs, I feel more activated, right? I'm like, oh, I can feel like I'm using my core or my muscles because they've been like a little challenged as opposed to just being normal me. So I do love that. But if it's early morning, I definitely struggle with those bands. Oh, hey, physical therapy for the band. That's great. Those bands, if you do it right, you'll be stronger than you could imagine, right? For sure. Derek, thanks so much. Jeff, great to see you. Stay tuned. I'll be putting up when my office hours will be coming back once I get settled. I'm looking forward to connect with all of you, but don't hesitate. Send me a video or drop me a note inside the community. Would love to hear how things are going. Thanks, everyone. I'll see you.